What's good, Commanders fans and Wizards fans? I just want to give a quick shout out to Derek Brown, 7955, who commented on my second to last video, the one about the 5 players who stood on OTAs. First, I'm going to talk about the Wizards, and then I'm just going to talk about the joint practice. Not really going to get into the Brandon McManus stuff too much, honestly. You got to let the legalities play out. I didn't read the article. I know they were on a plane, snakes on a plane or whatever, and two flight attendants accused him of sexual assault or, whatever. So I haven't read too much into it, so I'm not going to comment too much about it. But, we'll see how it plays out and what happens there. I don't think he's going to get released. I think they would have released him by now if they were going to do that. But we'll see what happens with that, and I'll just leave it at that, to be honest. But shout out to Derek Brown, 7955. He said, Ed, did you quit just talking about the Wizards? I asked this because I know you quit Locked On Wizards, or I moved on from Locked On Wizards. But before you got hired for that podcast, you had your own coverage on the Wizards. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to get back to that. And this is one of my first videos of talking about the Wizards since I moved on from Locked On Wizards. Shout out to Locked On Wizards. Shout out to my guy, Brandon Scott. Shout out to the Locked On Network. Have nothing but good things to say about the Locked On Network for sure. There is, let me see, I got this little bag here as well from Locked On. I got a lot of stuff. I got some shirts, a couple hats from the Locked On Network, just being a part of the Locked On Network. So they treated me well at Locked On. I don't have a lot of complaints or any ill will, stuff like that. I've moved on amicably from the Locked On Network, and I still watch my guy Brandon doing the show. I will be doing the show with Brandon on Bleacher Report, talking about the Wizards June 4th, June 19th, June 25th, and June 28th. So we have 4 shows coming up in the month of June. June is my birthday month, too, so it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be very lit. And the NBA draft is happening in June as well. I want to say like June 25th, if I'm not mistaken. I got to look it up again to make sure. But the Wizards, if you guys are not here, they have rehired or promoted retained Coach Brian Keefe, a.k.a. Chief Keefe. Now, if you look at his record last year, I mean, you kind of throw it out the window because they just weren't good enough. It's a rebuilding year, clearly. They're not trying to win a lot of games. They're trying to get draft capital. They ended up with the second pick of the draft. It's going to be a rebuild for the next 2 seasons, in my opinion, where you're going to see like a 15-67 record or a 20-62 or 19-63, like not as bad as a 10-72 kind of record, but it looked like it was going to be that at one point. But I think the Wizards ended up being, like 15 and something like that. Really, really bad, of course. But that's what you're going to see. And, you got to have the players, too. Right now, he just doesn't have the talent. We just don't have the talent on the roster to be competitive, to be even a playing team. But that's not their goal. They don't want to be in the middle like they were before with Bradley Beal, Porzingis, and Kuzma. Even though Porzingis is going to the finals, Gafford's going to the finals. A couple of guys on the roster are going to the NBA Finals. And are huge contributors of the Gafford has looked awesome. He's looked really darn good. I'm very happy for Daniel Gafford. He's played really good basketball as of late with the Mavericks for sure. But to get back to Chief Keefe, I interviewed Chief Keefe a couple times. I've spoken to him twice, being a media member. Shout out to my guy Brandon. He's a media member as well. We've spoken to Coach Keefe multiple times. I just think some of the improvements that I saw from moving on from Wes Unseld Jr. to Brian Keefe, Jordan Poole played better. He played more under control. He had a defined role coming off the bench. And as a starter playing the point guard position, I think he did a better job under Coach Keefe. Coach Keefe, I think he was a part of that as well, not just making him play point guard primarily and sitting Tyus Jones or Tyus Jones being out. But I think Brian Keefe did a good job of getting Jordan Poole in the right spots and to lock in mentally as well and play better. I think he did help Jordan Poole do that. Jordan Poole was a big part of that too himself, and just playing the point guard position or, having the ball in his hands more. But I think Brian Keefe was a big part of that too. Jared Butler, his development too. Brian Keefe, I think he was instrumental in that. Seeing Jared Butler get that contract, he played well, he improved. Deni Avdija, I think I'm not going to attribute all this to Brian Keefe, but those are just some players that I saw improve when Brian Keefe became the coach. You look at Deni, had that big game, the 40-point game. And also, Denny just played better. Had a couple double-doubles, flirting with triple-doubles, finished better above and around the rim, shot the ball better, played with a lot of confidence. And he just took a leap. He took a leap this year in the second half of the season. I think that was attributed Brian Keefe. Vucevic played well the last couple games of the year. And you could just pinpoint a couple guys. The defense improved a little bit. Still really awful just because they just don't have the roster. But like I said, you can look at some guys and they really improve. Like Corey Kisper's always been good, solid, steady Eddie guy, can knock down threes and can create a shot for himself, finish well at the rim as well. But like I said, Jared Butler, Jordan Poole, Vucevic, Danny, all those guys improved and played better basketball when Brian Keefe. We're just more consistent, I would say. Danny was more consistent in that second half of the season, for sure. So those are some good things. But Brian Keefe, he was hit an 8-31 record. Of course, he was with OKC with Will Dawkins and Travis Schlenk, and I'm not Travis Schlenk, but Michael Winger. So this was the obvious choice. They did interview a couple guys like Chris Quinn from the Miami Heat. They gave him a chance. A couple guys who have not coached before. They gave those guys chances in interviews. But we all knew what they were going to do. They were going to promote their guy. Most likely, David Vanterpool is going to be the assistant coach as well. I mean, you kind of saw this when they fired Wes Unseld Jr.'s staff and his assistants. The writing was on the wall. And really, when they hired these guys to be assistant coaches, this was kind of the move that they were looking for. And, a lot of people are kind of upset we didn't get a big-name coach or swing big or anything like that. But you just kind of knew with this team and where they're at right now, just the record-wise. And Udonis Haslem said we were the most attractive coaching spot. Not a lot of people agree with that, but I can see what he's saying. Just a new slate. You can basically create your own identity, your own team and whatnot. Kind of like with the Commanders where you're just starting fresh. I can see what Udonis Haslem is saying, but honestly, Brian Keefe, we kind of knew this was going to happen. Just the connection, the OKC connection that they have. And Brian Keefe, man, he's done really well with defenses. With the Lakers, he made their defense really good. He helped them improve from like bottom of the league to the top like a top 12 defense. So Kevin Durant attributes a lot of his game to Brian Keefe, a lot of his development to Brian Keefe as well. Coach Chief Keefe. So nothing but good things that I hear about Chief Keefe. Last year, I'm not going to say throw it out the window, but at the same time, they just didn't have the roster. They just didn't have the roster. So let's see what happens with him. I do think he's a reserve kind of chill kind of guy. Does he get under people's skin and stuff like that? That was kind of the thing with Wes Unseld Jr. Is he a leader of men and stuff like that is yet to be seen with Brian Keefe because he hasn't really been a head coach much. But he's been a solid assistant coach for sure with OKC for many years. The Knicks, the Lakers, OKC again, and then Brooklyn as well when in 2021, 2022, 2020, and then 2022, 2023 season as well. 47 years old. So, I mean, I think it's a solid hire. It's not anything to go crazy over anything like that, but it's kind of like you knew this was going to happen. You knew this was going to happen, and he's going to take a lot of punches next year. Next year is going to be a down year. The year after is going to be a down year too. So you got to have somebody that's going to be able to weather the storm. You're not going to bring in a big-name coach who has a lot of decorated accolades and stuff like that come into the situation where you're not going to be a good team. You're just not going to be a good team. So for him, the goal for him is Bilal Coulibaly. How does he develop? Whether we get Reece Hache or Alex Sarr or Rob Dillingham. I like Rob Dillingham a lot. I do like Donovan Clingan. How does he develop the rookie? How does he develop Tristan Vukcevic? Johnny Davis, we'll see what happens with him. His development, we'll see if he's on the roster this upcoming year or not. But just the development of young players and just setting a culture and setting a tone and setting somewhat of an identity is really the biggest thing for Chief Keefe going forward. I don't really look at wins or losses for him. I know we did with Wes Unseld Jr., but with Brian Keefe, really whoever the coach is for the next 2 years, you're really not looking at wins or losses. You're kind of just looking at the development of Denny and the young guys. Can he get the best out of them? Can he develop Bilal, get the best out of him, and put him in the best situations to succeed, have his confidence up, and, just see how these guys develop. That's really what I'm looking for from Brian Keefe, and just a culture setter. Same thing with David Vanterpool. These guys are brought in to develop the players and get them to improve. And whoever we get, like I said, Donovan Clingan, Dillingham, can he get the best out of those guys? Stephon Castle, Reece Hache. I'm not the highest on Reece Hache, but if he gets him, then can we get the best out of him? Do we have a plan for him? Do we have a plan to develop him and get the best out of him? So honestly, I may not get to the Jets and Commanders joint practice. I guess I'll go over that very, very quickly here. I'll go over that very quickly, but I do see a couple of people are kind of just disappointed that we didn't get an outside guy, or they felt like the search was just like kind of not much of a search and stuff like that. We didn't hear a lot of interviews, a lot of names that came out. But actually, let me pull up a couple of the names that they did interview real quick, and then I'll move on to the Commanders talk real quick. I'll make it very, very quick here. I know it was like Chris Quinn from the Miami Heat. I was interested in him for sure. And then I want to say it was like Royal Ivy and a couple of guys. But that's really it, guys, for that. So I know not much on that. I mean, I think Brian Keefe is a solid coach. Yet to be seen. Hasn't coached many games, so we'll see what happens with him on that. All right. Commanders Jets joint practice. Robert Saleh confirmed that today in his interview. Just looking at the Jets roster, they got Garrett Wilson. They got a darn good roster. Aaron Rodgers, obviously. They got a good roster, man. They're ready to go. They're ready to roll, man. If Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy and doesn't get hurt on the first game of the season like last year and can stay healthy, then they have a really good. Breece Hall is a legit back. Garrett Wilson is a legit wide receiver. They signed Mike Williams, who was released by the Chargers. They got Allen Lazard off the bench. Malachi Corley, the rookie, who's a tough runner. Tyler Conklin, the tight end, who's a good tight end. Tyron Smith, good left tackle. And Morgan Moses, former Commander. Javon Kinlaw hasn't really lived up to the hype, but a solid defensive tackle. Quentin Williams, who's a darn good defensive tackle. Hassan Reddick, heck of a pass rusher. So Brandon Coleman will be tested for sure. And Andrew Wiley would be tested when we practice against those guys. CJ Mosley, a darn good linebacker. Sauce Gardner versus Terry. That's going to be a heck of a matchup. Him versus Jahan Dotson. Him versus Luke McCaffrey. That would be a fun matchup for sure. They just got a good roster, man, from top to bottom, man. They're a talented team. And obviously they're going all in with Aaron Rodgers. So this is why they have such a good roster, because they built the team up. Zach Wilson was not able to get it done. Other guys on the roster who were the backup quarterbacks to Aaron Rodgers. But, man, yeah, this is going to be a good time. I love this. I love going against the Dolphins in practice with Tyreek Hill, Tua, Jalen Waddle. This will be a good test for Emmanuel Forbes, too, against Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams. This will be fun. I'm happy. And just getting these guys ready to go. No more just practicing against each other. Let's practice against some other guys and have a good measuring stick for Jaden Daniels going up against Hassan Reddick in a good pass rush, going up against CJ Mosley in a good linebacker, going up against a good corner in Sauce Gardner. So this will be a good test for sure for Jaden Daniels. And then you look at the Dolphins, Sam Howell threw how many interceptions against the Dolphins? Threw a pick 6 in that game too. So this will be 2 really good tests for Jaden Daniels in practice. So but yeah, I was just texting back and forth with my guy Brandon. He said only a matter of time for the Keefe signing. We all knew this was going to happen. It was like stuff that we kind of knew a long time ago. This is what Will Dawkins and Schlank and these guys and Michael Winger kind of wanted to happen. Just the OKC connection there. So like I said, not a surprise. Not a surprise at all. But I think it's a solid hire, and for right now, I think he's kind of the right guy for the right time right now. In this developmental stage, in this developmental mode, I think he's the guy that's going to be patient with this roster, and they're going to be patient with him too. Like I said, they're aiming for Cooper Flag next year. That's what they're looking for. Cooper Flag is their championship. Their Super Bowl next year is Cooper Flag in the draft. So, but all right, you guys, let me know what you guys think about the joint practice. Let me know what you guys think about the Brian Keefe hiring as well. Like I said, the majority of this video is about the Wizards. Have not talked about the Wizards much at all, so we'll be getting into that for sure. And we'll be on Bleacher Report, and we'll be talking about the draft as well, too. So, all right, you guys, let me know what you guys think. I do like Dan Quinn getting these guys on the schedule. I like it. I like it with these joint practices. I like it a lot. Not ducking any smoke. Looking forward to smoke. I like it a lot. And I want to see how Joe Witt Jr. is. I want to see how this defense is. I want to see how Forbes is. Deron Payne, John Allen, we know how they do. Want to see how the pass rush is with the new guys like Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler, guys like that. How does Michael Davis look? How does Jamin Davis look? Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu, Jeremy Chin. I'm just naming everybody. Quan Martin, Ben Sinnott, the rookie. Just looking at everybody. Terry, Luke McCaffrey, of course. Just looking at Jahan Dotson. Looking at everybody on the roster to see how these guys play in these joint practices. All right, you guys let me know what you guys think. Tell the Commanders and Wizards. Peace.